All right, let's talk 1- and 2-step conversions and go through what it is you've got to do for these. So, let's see. Show all work, box your answer, include quickly reviewed units, and scientific notation, of course. 1-step conversions. All right, let's go through how you do 1-step conversions, or these particular ones anyway. Yes, you should know off the top of your head a milliliter is 1,000th of a liter, so that this is 1,000, but again, you got to show your work in order to get credit. So we write our given, 1 liter. Yes, you can use the standard abbreviation. Set up a conversion factor. It's a 1-step conversion because one of the units is a base unit. Equals, and then milliliters will be our answer. So we put milliliters on top so that it can be in the answer. We put liters on bottom so the liter can cancel liter. So leave just milliliters. Milli means 1/1000, so the number 1,000 is involved. And since a milliliter is smaller than a liter, the big number goes next to the small unit, which means it goes next to milliliters because the 1,000 is involved, and you're going to put it next to this 1,000th of a unit. Liter is smaller, so you put it next to this. Automatic 1 here. So we take 1 times 1,000 gives 1,000 milliliters for your answer. Infinite sig figs because they're both metric. 1 sig fig because that's 1 sig fig, which means 1 sig fig here, so this is fine. However, we should do this with scientific notation, so that's 1 times 10 to the third. Oops, not liters, milliliters. Onward. 4,863 milligrams. Yes, that's standard milligram abbreviation. Times, grams is a base unit, so I know I only need 1 conversion factor. I mean, aside from this is how I know it's only 1 conversion factor, equals. And then grams will be the answer. So let's put grams on top so it can be in the answer. Let's put milligrams on bottom so milligrams can cancel milligrams. And then milli means 1/1000th again, so the number 1,000 goes next to the smaller unit. In this case, the smaller unit of milligram is on bottom, so the number 1,000 goes on bottom, and then we put 1 on top. So this times 1 divided by 1,000 equals this, and that's going to be 4.863 grams. 4 sig figs, 4 sig figs. This is infinite sig figs, so just 4 and 4. There we go. Onward. So, 2-step conversion. How do you know it's 2 steps? Because neither one of these is a base unit. So, let's look at that. 4,735 centimeters times this times another conversion factor equals an answer in kilometers. All right, well, let's look what that would be. We got to put centimeters on bottom here. That way centimeters cancel centimeters. And then kilometers has got to go on top here. That way it can be the final answer. So what last unit goes here? And the answer is, if you start with something that isn't the base unit, convert to the base unit. So centimeters, the base unit is meters. So convert from centimeters to meters. And if you put meters here, then put meters down here so that meters can cancel meters and give you this cancel, this cancel, this cancel, this cancel, kilometer, your final unit. Now, centi means 1/100th, so the number 100 goes in here. So put the number 100 next to the smaller unit. Now, centi, 1/100th of a meter is smaller than a meter, so the 100 goes down here because this is a smaller unit. Put an automatic 1 here. Kilo means 1,000. A meter is smaller than a kilometer because that's 1,000 meters and that's just 1. So put 1,000 here and 1 here. So this is telling us, take this, divide by 100, and then divide by 1,000. Okay, we'll do that. So 4,735 divided by 100, delete, equals, and then divided by 1,000 equals. Let me show that again because that actually is important. To avoid errors from wrong order of operations, do it 1 step at a time. 4,735 divided by 100 equals, and then take that and divide it by 1,000. If people try to do it all at once, oftentimes they have issues with wrong order of operations and they get a wrong answer. It really depends on the calculator model and what exactly the question is asking them to do. But nonetheless, you get this. And of course, 0.04735 kilometers needs to be converted to scientific notation. Infinite sig figs because both are metric. Infinite sig figs because both are metric. 4 sig figs, so let's make sure we got 4 sig figs here. 4.735 times 10 to the negative second, but in case you want to see, you can do that on the calculator too. So let's box that. There we have it. Okay, so onward. Questions about when to use two-step conversions. Circle or otherwise clearly indicate which answer is your answer. Is the base unit present in the questions with one-step conversions? Yes. Okay, base unit. Base unit. Oops, that's out of view. Okay, base unit and base unit. So one-step conversions happen. Is it present in questions with two-step conversions? No. Because you'll notice that's centimeter is not a base unit. Kilometer is not a base unit. So the base unit is not explicitly mentioned in the question. If the base unit is present, then you do a one-step conversion. If the base unit is not present, you do a two-step conversion. Sometimes it'll be more than two steps, but it's going to be a minimum of two. Now, identify whether a one-step or two-step conversion would be needed for each of these. Milliliter to liter, there's a base unit, one-step conversion. Centicandela to gigacandela, neither one's a base unit, two-step conversion. Kilometer to nanometer, two-step conversion. Gram to microgram, one-step conversion, because that's a base unit, unlike these, which neither one's the base unit. Here, milliampere to microampere, neither one's a base unit, two-step conversion. All right, let's move on. So with mixed practice, some of these are going to be single factors, some are two factors. Now let's see, microliters to milliliters, neither one's a base unit. That's a two-step conversion. 0.053946 microliters times one conversion factor, and then times a second conversion factor will equal an answer in milliliters. So let's put milliliters on top so that it's here. Let's put microliters on bottom so that microliters can cancel. And then, well, we need our base unit for the missing spaces because we're going to convert from microliters to liters. That's what here is. And then from once we're in the base unit of liters, we convert to milliliters. That's what this is, from liters to milliliters. So micro means 1/1,000,000th. So the number million needs to be in here. Now, microliter is far smaller than a liter, so the number million goes next to small units. So you can either put 1 times 10 to the 6th, or you can put a million. Oops. Or 1 times 10 to the 6th. Either one's fine. And then that'll be a 1 right there. So 1 liter is equal to 10 to the 6th, aka a million milliliters. And then microliters. Here, this is milliliters. Milli means 1/1000th, so the number 1000 goes in here. It goes next to the small unit, and 1/1000th of a liter is smaller than a liter, so that means the number 1000 goes next to this, the smaller liter, or the smaller unit, and then 1 goes next to the other one. So this is saying take this, divide it by a million, and times it by 1,000 in order to get the answer. All right, so let's do that. 0.053946 divided by a million. So you can either type 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so a million with 1 followed by 6 zeros. Or you can do 1 times 10 to the 6th. There you go, so divided by 1 times 10 to the 6th divided by a million. Okay, so we just took this divided by a million. Now let's multiply that by 1,000. And we get that. Convert it to scientific notation. 5.39486 times 10 to the negative 5th. 5.39486 times 10 to the negative 5th milliliters. And we box that. Because infinite sig figs, because they're both metric, and it's infinite sig figs because they're both metric, so 5 sig figs, 5 sig figs. There we go. Now, nanocandelas to candelas, that's a one-step conversion because this is a base unit right here. So 7.220 times 10 to the 6th nanocandela times something equals candelas. So let's do that. Nanocandela goes on bottom, so nanocandela cancels nanocandela. Candela goes on top, so it winds up in the answer. Nano means 1/1,000,000,000th. it means 10 to the, so that means the number billion is involved. That means 1 followed by 9 zeros, aka 1 times 10 to the 9th. So I'm going to put a billion down here next to the small unit, because a billionth of a candela is far smaller than a candela. So 1 times 10 to the 9th. If you want to write out 1 followed by 9 zeros, go for it. Either one's fine. And then that's equal to 1 candela. So 1 candela is a billion nanocandelas. So that is telling us we're going to take this times 1 divided by a billion. So let's do that. Let's divide it by a billion. 7.220 times 10 to the 6th. Oops, 6. Oops, I forgot to include parentheses for that. Divided by a billion. 1 times 10 to the 9th. Gives 7.22 times 10 to the negative 3rd. Candelas. Now, I'll move that a little closer just because it looks a little odd being so far away. Now, one thing though, infinite sig figs, but this is 4 sig figs, 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to have 4 sig figs here. This ain't 4, but now it is. So there you go. Correct sig figs, correct units, and scientific notation as required is present. All right, onward. 230 hectograms equals how many decigrams? That's not a base unit. That's not a base unit. Two-step conversion. 230 hectograms times, let's set up 2 conversion factors, equals, and it's going to be giving decigrams as the answer. All right, so let's put decigrams on top here so I can come out in the final answer. Let's put hectograms here on bottom so that I can cancel with hectograms. And then we need to put our base unit because we're going to convert from hectogram to gram and then from gram to decigram because you always go through the base unit. So that's what fills the empty spaces there. So hectogram to gram, gram to decigram. Hecto means 100. We put 100 next to gram because gram is smaller than a hectogram because 1 gram is smaller than 100 of them. Deci means 1/10. So the number 10 goes here. And since the 10th of a gram is smaller than a gram, the number 10 goes next to the smaller unit. Big number next to small unit. We put a 1 next to the other thing. So we're going to take this times 100 times 10. So let's do that. 230 times 100 equals times 10 equals. I know I could have done that all in one go, but you do it, you break it up like what I just did because it prevents errors from wrong order of operations with certain mathematical operators. So it gives that for the answer. Convert that to scientific notation. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2.3 times 10 to the 5th. Or if you don't believe me, check out the calculator. So 2.3 times 10 to the 5th decigrams. Infinite sig figs because both these are metric. Infinite sig figs because both these are metric. This has 2 significant figures because there's no decimal here. So that's why you don't need to add a 0. Just leave it as 2 sig figs and that'll be fine. All right, now onward. Microliters to liters. Liter is a base unit. That means you have a 1-step conversion. So 7.45 times 10 to the 7th. Let me make that 7 a little clearer. Okay. Microliters times a conversion factor equals something in liters. All right, let's see. That is going to be microliter on bottom, so that microliter cancels microliter. Liter on top, so it winds up with the final answer. A micro means 1/1,000,000th of something. Million can either be written as 1 followed by 6 zeros, or as 1 times 10 to the 6. Either way of writing a million is fine. So I'm going to put 1 times 10 to the 6 just for fun, but if you want to put 6 zeros, 1 followed by 6 zeros, you could, because microliter, a millionth of a liter is far smaller than a liter, so the number million needs to go next to the small unit of microliter, and then 1 next to the bigger unit. Okay, so this times 1 divided by a million. In other words, this divided by a million. So 7.45 times 10 to the 7th divided by a million. Either 1 followed by 6 zeros, or 1 times 10 to the 6th, that's a million. Okay, so this divided by a million gives 74.5. And Could use scientific notation for that answer, 7.45 times 10 to the first, but you could use 3 sig figs, infinite sig figs, 3 sig figs. So we got our number, our units, and there we go. Onward then to this question, 1,743.4 kilometers times something equals how many millimeters now? Not a base unit, not a base unit. We're doing 2 conversion factors. 2 or more, but in this case, we're only giving you ones that require 2. So let's add a second conversion factor, and that's going to equal to millimeters. So kilometer goes on bottom, so that kilometer cancels kilometer. Millimeter goes on top, so that millimeter gives is left over in the end. And then we need our base unit, so converting from kilometer to meter, and then from meter to millimeter. So that's why we have meter in these spots right here. So now we just got to fill in the numbers because we did our units first. Now the numbers. Kilo means 1,000. So the big number goes next to the small unit. A meter is smaller than 1,000 meters. So since meter is the smaller out of these 2 units, the number 1,000 goes next to meter. And then we just put 1 on the other side. Here, milli means 1,000th, as in 1 over 1,000. However, just because it's 1 over 1,000 doesn't mean it goes on bottom automatically. You have to put the smaller unit next to the big number. So millimeter is smaller than a meter because 1,000th of a meter is smaller than a whole meter. The number 1,000 goes next to the smaller unit. Depending on how you have this set up, the number 1,000 can go on bottom, or it can go on top. It depends. Where's the smaller unit? In this case, since small units are on top of both of them, 1,000 goes on top of both of them. And then automatic 1 on the other spot. So basically we're saying this times 1,000 and then times 1,000 again. So let's do that. 1,743.4 times 1,000 and then times 1,000 again. And then we convert that to scientific notation, and that is 1.7434 times 10 to the 9th millimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs, infinite sig figs because they're both metric, infinite sig figs because they're both metric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs. So 5 sig figs for each of these. We're good. All right, and let's look at letter F right here. So that many moles is how many decamoles? All right, I see that this is a base unit, so that means it's going to be a one-step conversion because we're just going to go from the base unit to something that isn't the base unit. So we do as we usually do. We write the given 0.0100 moles. Yes, the standard abbreviation for mole. We're going to multiply by, we need only one step for our conversion. So our conversion factor will have mole on bottom so that it can cancel with moles over here. And decamoles is what we need in our answer. So we're going to put that abbreviation on top so that that abbreviation can be in our answer. And then what that leaves us with is doing the actual setting up the conversion factor. So we have to remember that deca means 10. So we got to put the number 10 next to the small unit, and 1 mole is smaller than 10 of them. So we put the big number next to the smaller unit and an automatic 1 next to the other unit. And then what this is telling us is to take this divided by 10 to get our answer. So let's do that. 0.0100 divided by 10. So it's 0.001. 0.001. Now let's keep these significant figures, 0. Why do I keep those significant figures and not round to 1 sig fig? The answer is because this is 3 sig figs right here. This is infinite sig figs because they are the same measuring system. So what that means is that we have infinite sig figs, 3 sig figs, so make sure you got 3 sig figs right there, which this is 3 sig figs, though of course we need that as scientific notation. So that would be 1.00 times 10 to the -3rd decamoles, which is abbreviated as the mole. Oh, wrong letter of the alphabet. Okay, there we go. And then boxing that as our final answer, that should be good to go.